Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Grow the Earth. I'm Tommy, and of course we're back out here in the garden, and it's kind of a sad affair today. This was our squash bed, but as you can see we've had a really bad invasion of squash vine borers that have pretty much decimated our squash bed. But we have a solution to this, and it's simply because squash, they take off and grow so quickly, and then they come to fruition so quickly that we'll be able to replant and do kind of a garden reboot on our squash. Now one reason we can do this is because we're here in 9A, and I know that I've got plenty of time before it gets too cold for squash to grow real well. Now, for people in other areas, I know there's a lot of emphasis on your last frost date, which is what everybody gets excited about because it means they get to replant, they get to plant their summer garden. But there's also another date that you should pay attention to, which is called your first frost date. And here in 9A, our first frost date, which is the first day we can expect to have any sort of frost, is in like mid-November. So that means that we have quite a few more months of this balmy hot weather that we've got before we can expect any kind of a frost. So what that also means is that I've got plenty more time to plant another round of squash in here and to be able to reap the rewards of doing that extra work. Now, with the fact that we have lost our squash to squash vine borers creates a small issue. If you haven't researched squash vine borers, or if you hadn't planted squash before, this may come as kind of a new information to you. But squash vine borers are a daytime moth that hangs around squash, zucchini, and pumpkins and the like. And what they do is they lay their eggs on the stem of on the stalk of the plant. And when those eggs hatch, they have a little grub that comes out that actually bores into the stem and starts eating the plant from the inside out. Now, I have tried to save these plants as far as cutting them open and pulling the grubs out and all that nice stuff, but with all the rain we've had, it's kind of limited our ability to get out here and to keep an eye on these things. You can see some of the ground's disturbed because I actually went through here and pulled weeds that have been growing over the last 2 to 3 weeks of the rain we've had. So, what we're going to do today, because we're going to pull these plants out and replant, but we've got to do something special for these plants. The first thing that we've got to do that's special is these plants, because they have been infected with squash vine borers, we are not going to compost. We can take care of this 2 ways. We can either bag up all this and throw it away on our trash, or what I like to do is we're actually going to burn this stuff. And what that's going to ensure is if there are any more squash vine borers that are still in any of these stems, that we're going to get rid of them, because they are the devil to anybody who grows squash or pumpkins. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to put you guys into a time lapse, and I'm going to go ahead and pull all these vines together, and we're going to get them into a spot to where we're going to burn them. All right, so we'll see you back here in just a minute. Alright guys, so now that all that hard work is done, and we've got our clear bed here, we've still got another step before we can replant. Now, the other part of the squash vine borer kind of saga that happens is after they have gone through and eaten out the inside of your plant, once they've had their fill, they actually come out of the plant and then they burrow down in your soil and they molt and wait till next year to reinfect your plants that you plant next year. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. But since we're doing a reset right now, what we're going to do is wherever our stem was, we need to dig down about 3 inches and about 6 inches on either side, and we're going to be looking for these guys right here. Now the picture I've got on the screen is what we're going to be looking for, and that is going to be the molted grub. And if you see these in your ground, you need to kill them, because they are just going to come back as a squash vine borer that's going to reinfect your plants next year. So again, we're going to put y'all back in a time lapse. I'm going to dig up, and if I find one, I'm going to stop and we'll get in real close and I'll show you what we found. Alright guys, so I guess luckily, or not lucky for you guys, I showed you a picture of what you're looking for. I didn't find anything. I think I found one, but I ended up basically cutting it in half when I was digging through, so I couldn't rightfully show that to you guys. So, again, I stress that if you have something, especially something like this, where you have squash vine borers that killed the plants that you're taking out and you're replacing, like I said, we're going to dig down 3 inches and about 6 inches around where our stem was going in our ground, because that's where they will go into molt for the next season. And we definitely want to get those out of our ground. Some people, we kind of do a no-dig method. We try not to disturb the ground, but if you're doing tilling will actually destroy these, the little cocoons, as you till, which will help. But you know that you're kind of it's kind of a double-edged sword. You are killing those pests, but you're also destroying the soil structure. So it's kind of, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. But we're going to continue to work through this off screen, and we're going to replant our squash. The reason another reason I know is that squash will be up and producing in the next month, so I don't have to worry about, do I have enough time? That is something you will have to take into consideration if you're living a little further north, especially up in the 6-7 range, or even lower. You know, because y'all have very, very short summers, and your growing season is very confined. You probably won't have time to reset like we do here. But effectively, we plant year-round and grow year-round, so that's one of the advantages of being down here. One of the disadvantages is whenever you get into, you know, with a heat index that's upwards of 110 in the summertime. So take your pick. So guys, as far as, you know, there's a godly message in everything, especially when you're gardening. And this has a godly message in it too. And it has to do with the fact of, as you're growing along, and then you have sin that creeps in and it starts destroying you from the root. Sometimes you have to do a reset. Sometimes you have to start over. And it's not a time for sadness, it's a time for new beginning. And it's a time for knowing that what destroyed you before, you can take steps against to keep you from being harmed by that same thing again. And as long as you trust in the gardener who will come in and who will take out those bad roots and will restart you, then you've got something to work with. Even though we've been destroyed by sin and by failure and by other things, a lack of faith or unbelief, He can start us over and let us be fruitful and productive without all of the pests and the sin of this world that are going to affect us. And we get to start over with a new life. So guys, I ask you to pray over your family, pray over your garden, and have a great day.